to kind of get into the point of this, which is part of the problem, like I said before, is the Republican Party has gone to this point where it's very right wing and it's very yes man, follow the king, step in a line. And so really the only qualification isn't, you don't have to be smart, you don't have to be capable, you don't have to know what you're doing. You just have to be a big enough suck up to the king, in this case Trump, right, for them. So that's what happened, and now you've got all these morons that are kicking around in positions of power that don't even know what's going on. And to begin, I'm just going to give you kind of an example of who they are and why that is, but we're going to start with one of my favorites, who actually might win her election this year, which, you know, it's good for us because, you know, we love making fun of her. But Lauren Boebert, the Boebert just recently, I mean, I don't know, it's endless with her. It's always stupid video after stupid video. I mean, I can't believe how dumb she is. But here is a video where she gets kind of fact checked right to her face on the floor over something really, really stupid. She should have known better.
Asking about the EPA, and I'm asking about your rogue bureaucrats that have enacted these unconstitutional regulations. Are you going to repeal them? Are you going to continue to implement them? Or are you going to stop altogether since it's been overturned?
Do you understand the ruling?
Do you understand the ruling of the...
Okay, so let's get into this real quick. So, she's talking to, I think, the director of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. So, recently there was a ruling where the Supreme Court shot down what's called the Chevron Doctrine. Now, the Chevron Doctrine was a case against Chevron, basically said, look, because judges and legal experts were not scientists, were not experts on these things, we don't get to make decisions. We're going to defer to the experts to interpret ambiguous things in the law. For example, let's say I'm a company and I'm dumping a specific chemical into the water. Now, could be the chemical's harmless, could be it's not. Now, let's say it gets interpreted, EPA does some data, does some research, and they find out, look, there's a direct correlation and causation, potentially, between me dumping this chemical and cancer rates in the city where I live have gone up since I started dumping this chemical. So there's a direct correlation, there's potential causation, whatever. The EPA then has to make the decision, well, look, is this significant enough that we need to restrict me from being able to dump this chemical in the water? The EPA gets to make that decision. The experts get to decide. Supreme Court overruled that. Doesn't work that way anymore. Because that's what the Chevron Doctrine said, is the EPA gets to make that decision. Is this a dangerous chemical? Congress just passes it, will you all stop dangerous chemicals? EPA has to decide what those are. Now the court's saying, no, the court gets to decide whether or not it's a dangerous chemical, even though none in the court is an expert in this matter. So what ends up happening is the EPA has to go, okay, well, we think it's a dangerous chemical, so let's take it to the court. Well, of course, my company's going to try and delay that trial and delay it, and it could take years before it finally gets in front of the court. They're going to make a ruling. I'm going to appeal it. If I lose, this is going to go to a higher court. And then if that loses, I'm going to appeal it again, try to get to the Supreme Court. In the meantime, years have passed where I'm still polluting the river. And there's a good chance the court's going to go, well, there's not enough direct link to say that it's not safe, so we're going to rule in my favor. That's what we're talking about. So that's what happened. That was the ruling. The ruling is now the courts get to decide these things. She's going back and saying, well, hey, EPA director, because the court ruled that, everything you've done is illegal, so you have to repeal all of your rulings before and all of the regulations and everything, and totally, that's not what the court ruled. The court ruled that in the future we get to decide. Not that anything the EPA did up to this point was wrong. That's where she's mistaken. That's why he's laughing about, do you understand the ruling? Because she's telling him, well, you need to repeal all the stuff that you've done. And all the environmental regulations and regulations on lead and gasoline and poison and stuff that goes into people's food and whatnot. Yeah. That's where this is so crazy.
Supreme Court?
I do. And so your question is ill-formed. No.
So which ones are you going to repeal?
The Supreme Court didn't tell us to repeal anything.
They have been deemed unconstitutional.
No.
Absolutely, they have. This was a huge victory.
But I would just like to clarify a few things for my colleague from Colorado. The Loper-Bright ruling said that the courts should not defer to agency rulemaking if a statute is ambiguous, and instead the courts get to determine whether or not what the statute means. Is that your understanding as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that would not require any regulations to be reversed or overturned, correct?
Correct.
Asking about
I swear her staff hates her. That's got to be what it is. She's gonna be, oh, I'm gonna tell him he needs to repeal all this. Yeah, Lauren, you should do that. You should totally do that. You should tell him that the Supreme Court said it's unconstitutional. And they didn't. That's not what happened.